sun comes up on America. Across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
All right, welcome to it. Glad to have you back on board for the program as we kick off another big day. It's Wednesday. Glad to have you on board, fighting for you from the Foxwell Freedom. Three big things this hour. Number one, where is Mitch McConnell? Some people say they have spoken to him, and yet there's no actual update on his health almost a month into his hospitalization following a heart attack where he was non-responsive. We want the truth. Number two, the campaign of Graham Plattner is still alive despite a wave of anger and rejection from Democrats who finally cannot get past his behavior. But Plattner is apparently making a list of demands to leave the race. We'll see. And number three, real quickly, the ceasefire is over today, says Donald Trump. He says it's a waste of time. We'll be covering that. All right, we're going to be covering that. And on that same topic, for decades, the American taxpayer has been played for a fool, in my opinion. We've poured hundreds of billions, trillions over time into NATO, stationing our finest troops and stockpiling advanced weaponry all across Europe, all to defend our so-called allies. And what have we gotten in return? Excuses, shortfalls, and lectures about diplomacy when we finally demand fairness. NATO benefits far more from the United States than we do from ever having anything from them. And no one has understood that better or fought harder to fix it than President Trump. Think about it. Over just the last 20 years, the spending imbalances have been stark and indefensible. According to NATO's own data and independent analysis, the United States has shouldered roughly 70% or more of the alliance's total defense expenditures in many years, with our contributions often exceeding $800 billion annually, in recent budgets far beyond the 2% GDP target. Meanwhile, major European powers like Germany hovered between 1.2 and 1.5% most of the 2010s and early 2020s. Italy and Spain frequently dip below 1%. And even key players like France lag behind in their commitments. Countries poured resources into expansive social programs, green energy initiatives, and bureaucratic overhead, while American families like yours funded the lion's share of deterrence against Russia and other threats. This wasn't partnership, it was parasitism. The U.S. maintained massive forward deployments, intelligence sharing, and rapid response capabilities that kept the peace. Benefits Europeans enjoyed without equivalent sacrifice. In fact, not much sacrifice at all. Trump called this out from day one at the NATO summit. He didn't politely suggest they spend more. He pressured them relentlessly, shaming freeloaders on the world stage. And guess what? It is finally working. Because of Trump's leadership, allies are finally ramping up their commitments. This isn't coincidence. It's cause and effect. At the Ankara summit, with its focus on defense industry deals worth tens of billions, we're seeing the fruits of that pressure. Transatlantic production, investment, and a roadmap for real burden sharing. NATO President Mark Rutte credits Trump with all of it. Here's what he said.
I like the man. I think what he is doing for NATO is great news. Because yes, there is a Russian threat, there is Ukraine, so we had to step up in Europe anyway. But he was what was necessary to bring this extra impetus to the debate, to really get all these nations on the famous old 2% and now to agree to the 5%. And as I said yesterday in the pre-conference presser, Canada and Europeans are now already at almost 4% when it comes to defense spending. So in 1 year, on this trajectory to 5% in 2035, we reached the 4% in 2026.
Yesterday, President Trump eviscerated the underperformers. He pointed to Iran as a test that proved that, spending or not, our so-called allies frequently let us down. Here he is.
But we weren't treated well because we did something in Iran. We don't need anybody's help. I didn't even want their help. But before I asked, they said they wouldn't be there. And we've invested trillions of dollars in NATO. Why? To protect European countries and others, Canada, etc., but to protect people, countries from, generally speaking, it used to be the Soviet Union, now it's Russia. And I say that's fine, but you would think that they'd be very willing to do something to help us, and they really weren't. In the case of the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister, I guess he's no longer there, maybe because of this. It was a very unpopular thing he did. He said, no, we'll help after the war is over. I said, I don't need that kind of help. We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we help them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us.
He was testing their loyalty, their willingness to stand with America when it mattered. They failed miserably. Trump went so far as to say he wasn't even sure if he would be attending the NATO summit this year, but did so on account of his diplomatic relationship with Turkey's leader, Erdogan. Trump's Secretary of State has been blasting our partners for failing to test and pass the test as well. Here's Marco Rubio.
And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of that's going to have to be re-examined. All of it's going to have to be re-examined.
Exactly. What's the point? Why should Trump or the United States support NATO or attend the summit? Trump's remarks aren't bluster. It's the raw truth of a leader who puts America first. While the left clutches pearls and screams that Trump is destroying alliances, he exposes the one-way street for what it is. Our troops are not in Europe to defend American soil from invasion. They're there as a shield for Paris, London, Berlin, and Rome. We carry the weight. And when we need reciprocal support, whether on strategic interests or real threats, they ghost us. Trump's test revealed the freeloaders. Italy, Germany, France, and the UK. Names that should evoke a partnership instead of showed weakness. Trump's willingness to attend and engage, even amid disappointment, shows pragmatic strength, not isolationism. He's reforming NATO into something mutual, not a charity. Secretary Marco Rubio drove this point home perfectly in earlier remarks that still ring true. He dropped this truth bomb. Listen.
If that's what someone in Europe told you, that person's very disingenuous, because the United States has tens of thousands of troops stationed throughout that region, billions of dollars of weaponry staged throughout Europe. All of it there to defend Europe, not to defend America, to defend Europe from attack. Okay, all over. The United States is without the United States, there is no NATO. I mean, everyone recognizes that, including NATO. If we decided tomorrow that we were going to remove our troops from Europe, that would be the end of NATO. So they know that. And that commitment, that we haven't moved troops out of NATO. So anyone who said that's not being honest or is not, I think they're playing games.
Exactly. Rubio nailing the asymmetry. NATO isn't some abstract club. It's underwritten by American blood treasure and global power projection. Without us, it's a debating society with nice flags. NATO. Another scam. Another fleecing of the American taxpayer. More coming up after the break here on Daybreak. Yeah, a social club with nice flags. That's what NATO is without us. The left loves to flip this, claiming Trump threatens the alliance. Nonsense. Demanding fairness strengthens it. Diplomacy isn't endless subsidies and silence. It's leverage for better deals. Trump's approach, tough talk backed by results, is delivering increased European spending and focus on real threats like the Arctic. This week's summit, hosted in Ankara, with defense forums emphasizing innovation and investment, proves allies are responding to pressure, not despite Trump, but because of him. Something else that Rutte credited him with just yesterday. Here's more.
Dividing nations saying, you get support, you won't get support if you don't spend enough as well. The US is splitting NATO, isn't it, rather than bringing it together?
It is not. It is, I think, bringing NATO closer together, and having a review regularly, I think, is only wise. And the way it will be organized, with the Supreme Allied Commander being center stage in the review, the fact that the Americans have declared very clearly that they will do this in close coordination with all allies, I think is absolutely important. And as we have seen previously with the NATO force model, of course, these...
They want so badly to paint Donald Trump as a villain, but the facts once again don't support that. Take Greenland and the Arctic, another area where Trump has been vindicated. He's still not backing down from that discussion. Here's what he laid out yesterday.
With respect to what? Well, that's what hurt my relationship with NATO, because Greenland doesn't help Denmark. Denmark doesn't spend money to really help Greenland, but it's an important part for the United States. And it's surrounded by China ships and Russian ships. And that's not going to happen. The ships it's not going to happen. It was Greenland that, and it continues to be, that should be controlled by the United States, not by Denmark. And when they wouldn't go along with it, and with all the money we spend to help them with Russia, and we don't have to spend any money, we could remove all of our soldiers out of Europe. Because as you probably noticed, Europe's a very different place than it was 20 years ago. A lot different, much different. It's a much different, and they better be careful with immigration and energy. If they're not careful with those two things, you're not going to have a Europe anymore. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, powerful stuff, and he's not wrong. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte himself echoed the strategic reality in response to that exact point. Rutte and Trump have become very close on all of these conversations. Listen to this.
The president was right. There is an issue in the Arctic when it comes to China and Russia trying to gain access, particularly China becoming stronger and stronger. There is an issue when it comes to icebreaker capability. So this is what we collectively are addressing. And then there is a trilateral track between the US, Greenland, and Denmark to make sure that whatever investments the United States will make on Greenland, for example, when it comes to Golden Dome, that these investments are there to stay valid. Also, if Greenland would change its constitutional position within the Kingdom of Denmark.
You see that? Even the NATO chief validated Trump's concerns. The left paints this as reckless colonialism, but it's common sense geopolitics. China and Russia aren't tourists in the Arctic. They're competitors eyeing resources and routes and a competitive advantage. Denmark's subsidies to Greenland are one thing, but securing vital strategic territory for the free world demands stronger U.S. leadership. Trump's focus here isn't disruption, it's foresight. Rutte's acknowledgement shows Trump's criticisms are landing and forcing serious discussion, not retreat. Alliances must be two-way. They must be a two-way street. The relationship has skewed. Trump is rebalancing it. The media hysteria about him being a threat to diplomacy ignores how his pressure yields progress at summits like the one going on in Ankara. Allies gather, deals flow, and spending rises, not from weakness, but from accountability. The narrative that Trump endangers NATO is pure projection from those who prefer the status quo of American sacrifice. This week's events in Ankara, Rutte's validations, and Trump's unfiltered assessments prove the opposite. He is not weakening alliances. He's forging stronger ones on American terms. Italy, Germany, France, Spain, The UK, they failed the test. But Trump's leadership is, I hope, waking them up. We are protecting Europe, have since the end of World War II. They should meet us halfway or at least step aside if they won't. America doesn't need fair weather friends. We need partners who pull their weight, respect our interests from the Arctic and beyond, and stop treating our military as their insurance policy, paid for by the American taxpayer. President Trump has delivered that message loud and clear again. Increased spending, honest talks on Greenland, and a summit focused on real defense cooperation. Well, that's victory through strength. The left can wail about threats to diplomacy all they want. Results don't lie. NATO needs reform now, or America will thrive without carrying the dead weight. And that's the monologue. Let me tell you about something people keep asking me about, the QE infrared facial mask. This is red and infrared light therapy you can use at home to help support healthier looking skin, boost collagen, and soften the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. Instead of expensive spa treatments, you just wear the mask for a few minutes a day. It's comfortable, easy to use, and it fits right into your routine. This is the same mask that Ivy uses more often than I do. People love the results. Skip the costly spa visits, my friends. Go to QEstrong.com. Use the promo code Gruber, and you can get this mask for under $200. Plus, it's great at Halloween. That's QEstrong.com. Promo code is Gruber. All right, a lot to cover here today. The ceasefire is apparently over. Tyler Robinson was videotaped on camera on the Utah Valley University campus at least 4 times. The police on the stand for the preliminary hearing say he died from a gunshot wound. The conspiracy theories are in flames. So is Graham Plattner's attempt to be a U.S. Senator from the state of Maine. We'll have more coming up. This is Daybreak. All right, so back to it now. 2 things of importance here this morning. Number 1, the ceasefire apparently over. As President Trump says, it is a waste of time. This comes after Iran hit 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz, commercial vessels. Not a lot of damage, but President Trump said Wednesday he considers the tentative ceasefire with Iran to be over and calls it a complete waste of time. He said the people in Tehran can't be trusted, just like I said. They cannot be trusted. They're liars. We make a deal, they go outside, talk to the press, they say, we never even talked about it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over, said the president. They can talk, but I think they're wasting their time. They're liars, they're cheats, they are sick people. You've got that going on. You've got Graham Plattner refusing to leave the race for U.S. Senate in the state of Maine. Apparently he's got a list of demands. A list of demands. And on the Tyler Robinson front, well, a lot of information. New camera angles. He was on campus at least 4 times the day of the murder of Charlie Kirk. The police officer testifying, well, I guess it's testifying in a preliminary hearing, said that Tyler Robinson died from a gunshot wound. The fact that he was on campus 4 times and they have all sorts of new video angles of it is pretty interesting. In fact, let's see here, and I'm going to get into this later. Medical examiner's report says cause of Charlie's death was a gunshot wound to the neck. TPUSA turned over the HD video footage from their cameras of the shooting to law enforcement. So the video wasn't stolen by the photographer, as some have said on social media. The lead investigator testified that their big tip came when a person, Tyler Robinson, turned himself in. Access to the rooftop was easy. A staircase open to the public and a small guardrail that can be hopped over to gain entry to the gravel rooftop. No Spider-Man ability needed here. And it goes on. No bullet casing on the roof? Yeah, it's a bolt-action rifle. The empty casing was found still in the chamber. The list of proof goes on. I'll talk more about this. Occam's razor. The easiest explanation is usually the right explanation. It's where I still stand. Haven't changed. I'll be back. All right, let's jump right back into it now. I've got David Coleman on the line of the Coleman Legal Group. We had a lot of things we're going to discuss this morning, and we'll get to some of that stuff. We will. David, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Great to be with you again.
I'm throwing you a curveball because I need to understand something. And I know you're not a defense attorney generally, but I'm sure you've done it, yes?
Sure, of course.
We've got people in social media arguing about how long a preliminary hearing would take, and this is in reference to Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk. It's been 2 full days so far. We're told it could run through Friday. We don't have capital murder cases in Michigan because we have never had the death penalty in this state, not since it was created. But when you watch cases like this, the prosecution will often take days to lay out their case to make sure they don't miss anything because they want to make sure it goes to trial, especially in a high-profile case. Is that right or wrong?
No, that's very true. People need to understand this is not a full trial. The standard is not beyond a reasonable doubt. The standard is probable cause, which is the lowest level of standard of proof in our system. And so they have to put on enough proofs in order to get the case bound over or set on for a full trial. But they don't have to show their whole case. But a lot of times, especially in cases like this, where you have death penalty cases, the prosecutor is going to put on a lot more evidence than they might otherwise put on to make sure that that case gets set on for a full trial. And it's not unusual for those hearings to take days. Remember, we had a preliminary examination in the election case, the slate of electors in Michigan a year ago. That went 7 days. And that wasn't a capital murder case. That was an election fraud claim.
So a fraud case preliminary hearing took 7 full days. Just so we're clear on that. Now, having said that, I've got a copy of the Constitution in my hand, David, and I've thumbed through it again this morning, and I don't see anywhere in here where it says that podcasters are entitled to all the evidence in a case ahead of time. It's weird to me because these podcasters say that they deserve to see the coroner's report. They deserve to see all the videos, which, by the way, a bunch of new videos were aired in court over the last couple of days showing the alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, at least 4 different times on campus. The medical examiner's report says the cause of Charlie's death, a gunshot wound to the neck. Turning Point USA turned over the HD video footage from their cameras of the shooting to law enforcement. So the idea that it was stolen and hidden and kept from the world, not true. It went straight to law enforcement, so they have angles and different things. Do podcasters, because they're podcasters and have a big platform, do they have a constitutional right to all the legal evidence in a capital murder case? Because I'm looking here, I don't see it.
Well, haven't you heard, Steve? That's the 11th Amendment, that podcasters have the right to everything else that you and I aren't entitled to get. I mean, of course not. That's silly. Look, police do investigations. Even defense attorneys can't get all the information until their investigation is complete. But they're entitled to get all the information prior to the court hearing, to the preliminary exam or whatever, the trial, whatever is happening. So if the defense attorney can't get it all until their investigation is complete because they don't want to taint the investigation or witnesses, then how in the world do podcasters think they're entitled to it? Well, that's just such a silly argument.
Yeah. So the defense here that it's a mass conspiracy of Israel, Egypt, France, the U.S. military, Charlie's former security crew, Erica Kirk, Cabot Phillips, Kash Patel, the FBI, the ATF, Utah police, the judge, and Turning Point USA, all in a massive conspiracy seems a little thin to me. Am I wrong?
You know, it's funny how a conspiracy with looks like hundreds and hundreds of people involved managed to keep it all close to the vest and it doesn't leak. That's just ludicrous, those arguments. I'm sorry. That's silliness.
Yeah. All right. So I want to go back to election integrity for a moment because the Supreme Court has said that Election Day is still election season, apparently. These states can accept mail-in ballots. There's not going to be a stand here. But some states, like Florida, are moving forward with saying, yes, you do have to provide ID. Yes, you do have to prove you're a citizen. Can the states do that independently, regardless of the Save America Act? Do the states have the rights to say, our citizens must be American citizens, our voters, that is, must be American citizens? You must show photo ID. I have to show photo ID here in Michigan. Some would argue we're a blue state. I'm not sure of that, but some would argue. So states can set standards like this and be completely in line with the law, yes or no?
Yes, they can, but they can't override federal law. As long as the state law does not conflict with federal law, then they can do those sorts of restrictions, and they should do them. And I'm not aware of any federal law that says you can't require a photo ID or anything like that. That's why they're trying to pass these laws, the Trump administration right now. So yes, states can do that, but understand that if the federal government does something different under the supremacy clause, then the federal government would control.
You know what concerns me, David, and you and I have talked about this, and that is the complete lack of standards for voting in a place like California, the most populous state with the most voters, the most members of Congress, the most votes in the Electoral College, and they can accept, apparently they can count for 35 days, and we see how that works there. So to me, it disenfranchises me or any other citizen in any other state where we actually do it correctly. If California is just loosey-goosey and it's just they're passing stuff and they're getting members of Congress elected that shouldn't be there because they're counting votes for 35 days and magically it always comes out for one side and not the other, how is that not egregious to voters in other states that play by the rules, if you will?
Well, I don't disagree with you, Steve, on that. I mean, obviously, I think the disparity is clear, but the Supreme Court has ruled. And, you know, it was kind of a mixed bag this time. We got a lot of good decisions out of the court this most recent term. Remember the case involving the National Republican Senate Committee versus the FEC, where they came down and said political parties can contribute directly and coordinate with candidates. And it's a First Amendment violation to limit or restrict political parties and how they manage their candidates and campaigns. That was a great decision, 6-3, First Amendment case. So, you know, we had the trans cases. There were a number of cases that came down, which were great. I'm not sure I can explain the one about a day does not mean a day on the election issue, but that's the way the Supreme Court ruled.
It is. David Kallman, kind of a round robin here this morning, but I appreciate your input on everything, as always, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure.
Greatly appreciate it. Well, this part of the program brought to you by some of my best new friends, my besties at Ghost Bed. I'm not kidding you. I got 2 crowns last night. I didn't even know you could do that. The Ghost Bed has been in our house for about 4 months. I sleep better than I ever have. And I keep getting emails as far away as Homer, Alaska, where they say, Steve, we bought the Ghost Bed. We love it. I see the posts every day, the emails every day. The Ghost Bed is an American-made sleep system. You will sleep better. It's got cooling technology, so in the summer, you're not going to sleep hot. They got great mattresses for your RV. If you don't sleep well in your RV while you're out, Ghost Bed's your answer. You also get to try them for 101 days. If you're not thrilled, call them up. They'll pick it up. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Promo code Gruber. Believe me when I say I sleep like a stone with the Ghost Bed. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Promo code Gruber. Save 10% right now off the best price of the year because you're watching this program. Back after this. golden hour in medicine is called that for a very important reason. The quicker you can get treatment, regardless of what's happened to you, the more likely you are to come out with a good result. That's a fact. It's been proven over time. Dr. Kelly Victory is the chief of disaster and emergency medicine at the Wellness Company. She joins me now. Doctor, nice to see you today.
Thanks very much for having me, Steve.
And I mentioned that at the top because last week the Wellness Company released a study, first of its kind actually, regarding the use of pre-prescribed medications in emergency medical kits. And like I said, it's called the golden hour for a reason, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if we learn nothing else, Steve, from the COVID pandemic, it's that we should not and cannot rely solely on the government and on the system to take care of us in a time of crisis. And it's why we put together these medical kits. We have a number of them with different medications, all of them stocked with prescription medications written specifically for the person who orders it. It's everything from antibiotics to antivirals, medications for nausea and vomiting, to treat an allergic reaction, common cuts, scrapes to avoid infection, ways to treat allergic reactions. And the reason it's so important to have these ahead of time, as you said, is because it's about the speed to treatment. If you are in a position where you have to make an appointment at your doctor or find an urgent care or, God forbid, go to an emergency department, you are going to wait hours and hours and hours, and then after that still have to find a pharmacy that has the medication that you need if you're given a prescription in one of those facilities. So by having these ahead of time, you take yourself out of that system. You're no longer beholden to not only your local pharmacy or pharmacist, but to the system that may well be overwhelmed itself in the time of an emergency or a crisis.
Correct. This is the original kit. I'm holding the original kit
Yes.
here. This was the first kit put out by the Wellness Company a few years ago. And since that time, you've added a bunch. Let me just open up so people can see what the interior of it looks like. You've got medications, you've got other and you've got a guidebook so you know exactly what you're doing when you need to do it. Second question here, is it true that the vast majority of people who use the medication in the emergency kit had a positive experience and often avoided urgent care or the emergency room, as you just mentioned?
Precisely right, Steve. And we did this study surveying more than 500 people who had purchased that kit. And it turns out we were really pleasantly surprised. More than 70% of people had used the kit at least once. More than 80% said that they felt better, measurably better, within less than 3 days. And stunningly, 86% of people said that having the kit and the medications helped them to prevent an office visit, an urgent care visit, or a trip to the hospital. That is really a stunning result. There was universal satisfaction with the kit. 95+% of people said that they felt more confident, more secure just by having the kit in their possession. And the results were very, very meaningful.
Yeah, here's another kit that I've used a lot. It's the first aid kit. It's a little bit different than the rest, but it is the best first aid kit, Kelly, I've ever had. And I got burned pretty severely, a year or two ago now. And because of the cream that was here, we were treating that burn within minutes. And it's so important. The findings of this study underscore the importance of early treatment and intervention, regardless of what happens, whether it's an illness or an accident. Pretty important stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely. And all of our kits, including that red emergency kit, are really differentiated from everything else on the market, Steve, because they have prescription medications included. It is arming yourself ahead of time, as I said, with antibiotics, antivirals, prescription medications for nausea, prescription medications to treat an allergic reaction, prescription medications to treat scrapes and burns, as you mentioned. So these are really very different. I think it's part of what I call rational readiness, having one of these on hand for you in your place of work, in your home, in your go bag. It's part of disaster preparedness, and it's certainly part of self-sufficiency and self-reliance.
We have all seen the headlines of these cruise ships where people are suddenly sick, right? And they're in the cruise ship and they can't get proper medical treatment. You also make a travel kit. Just throw it in your suitcase. Take it with you. Do you think that the medications included in these emergency kits are the types of medications that every family should have on hand at home or when they travel.
Absolutely. The idea of going anywhere, frankly, certainly abroad, without having a host of these medications already in your possession, I think is really unwise. You are putting yourself at significant risk of their system, and risk of even being able to find the medications when you need them. We have experienced these supply chain issues that have impacted the availability of prescription medications. And again, all you have to do is use that kit one time, Steve, and you've paid for it itself if it saved you a trip to the urgent care, to your doctor's office, or to the emergency department.
Or you don't have to take your spouse or your child. What's your advice in stocking up on these medications? What do you recommend?
Well, again, I don't recommend, quote, stockpiling. I do recommend investing in one of these kits. You can go to the website and look. They vary a little bit based on the kit, and you can determine what's best for you and your family. All of them have prescription medications. All of them come with a very detailed guidebook to help lead you through how and when to use them. And they all come with a telemedicine visit where you can speak directly to a clinician if you still have questions. So
That's
I
right.
recommend that everyone go and find out which is the best kit for you based on your family and your underlying medical issues, and have one of these now before you want to have it before you need it.
Yeah, absolutely true. Dr. Kelly Victory, always a good conversation. Thank you for being here.
And thank you for having me, Steve.
Don't get caught without and think, man, I should have listened to Gruber. I should have listened to Dr. Kelly Victory. Yes, you should. Just go to twc.health/Gruber. The promo code is Gruber. You can save 10%. Again, this is the original kit. They have a variety of kits to choose from. They'll get you the one you need that is most appropriate for you. twc.health/Gruber. Promo code Gruber will save you 10%. You'll be glad you did this. Trust me. I'll take a break and be back on Daybreak. Do you ever find What is one of the things I've been telling you since the war began with Iran? And the price of oil soared. And then when oil came back down below $70 and has been for days, now it's at about 73 today because the ceasefire seems to have been broken and maybe over. But gas prices back up today. And I told you through the entire process, quite accurately, I might add, that the oil companies were going to have record profits. Well, look at that. The oil companies have windfall profits. Big Oil heads for its strongest quarter in more than 4 years. Chevron and Exxon expect to post surging profits. That's while President Trump is escalating pressure on oil companies, accusing them of price gouging. Well, they just posted record profits. What would you call it? And people will tell me, well, you know, the gasoline in the ground. Here's what they say. The gasoline in the ground was already paid for. So when oil prices come down, gas, you know, they've already paid that high price for the gas in the ground. They have to get their money back. Well, then riddle me this, Batman. Why the day after the war began, when they'd already paid for the gas in the ground, the price went way up? They already paid for the cheap gas in the ground. Why raise the price? Record profits, Chevron, Exxon. Let's see here. The two biggest oil companies reporting second quarter results at the end of the month will book the best quarter since 2022, when Western sanctions on Russia following its incursion in Ukraine pushed international benchmarks to well over $100 per barrel. Again, we're at about 70. We're at about 70. Obviously, when crude oil prices rise, so does the price of gas. But when crude oil prices come down dramatically, the price of gas just up like a rocket, down like a feather. Look, I don't begrudge them. They're making a profit. But they're doing it at our expense. Make no mistake. I don't need a lecture from anybody on oil prices and so on and so forth. I've got this. Thanks for your input. We'll have more Daybreak coming up. I'll see you in a moment.
that you see.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
All right, welcome back to it. It's Daybreak here, fighting for you from the Foxhole Freedom like we do every single day. Three big things to know this hour. Number one, a high rise in Manhattan on the verge of collapsing after an expansion renovation project went terribly wrong. Mayor Mamdani says he is on top of it. I can't wait for his socialist solution. Number 2, President Trump says Greenland is still one of his top priorities and says NATO is doing nothing to defend the island from incursions from the Chinese and Russians. As I have said before many times, the U.S. will be in charge before Trump leaves office. And number 3, the twisted, grotesque tale of Graham Plattner continues to twist in the political wind. He's now been accused, as you know, of raping an ex-girlfriend during an alcohol-fueled night of sex and anger, apparently, where she says she complied with his demands for sex rather than risk harm. And yet he is still the Democrat nominee for U.S. Senate in Maine, shocking to say the least. And believe it or not, some are still supporting him. And they're willing to sell their souls for money and power. Ivy's joining me now. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
I want you to hear this. Because a month ago, Plattner said he was healthy masculinity. Listen to this.
You represent masculinity in certain ways. The Democrats have trouble connecting with male voters. Describe the masculinity that you represent.
I think it's just a healthy form of it, which is, look, I mean, I lift weights. I shoot guns. My background is obviously in the military. I work outside. Most of my hobbies are things that people tend to associate with, like, manly stuff, I guess. At the exact same time, I go to therapy. I have a very open sort of dialogue and emotional relationship with my wife. I work incredibly hard to put myself in places.
His relationship with his wife is so open, he was sexting other women while they were married. That's how open the relationship is, Ivy. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
But here's the thing.
Can somebody call Bernie Sanders and say, did you, vet this candidate or the Democratic Party?
Funny you should ask. I read about this. Normally, when you vet a candidate, they'll spend tens of thousands of dollars, spend weeks. They spent $6,000 in 3 days. They literally knocked on this guy's door and said, we want you to run for Senate. They thought he would appeal to young white men, is what they thought. And that's why he's talking about the things he's on. I shoot guns. I lift weights. He's trying to attract a certain demographic that they've been getting killed on.
Yeah.
But he's still in the race, apparently, unverified. But the stories are that he's demanding a list of things, plus who gets to replace him.
Right. I think if he does not drop out in a certain amount of time, then he is automatically the candidate, right?
Monday, July 13th. If he's not out by noon or something on Monday this coming week, he is the candidate. Democrats, full-blown panic. Well, you did it to yourselves. And I also understand, there's two guys here. Let me see. I got Troy Jackson and Nirav Shah. Mm-hmm. They're jockeying to be named his replacement. You see, the Democrats are going to do the same thing they did with Kamala Harris. No votes, no voters, no democracy. We'll just tell you who the candidate's going to be, and you better vote for him.
Right.
It's
So
bizarre.
you think that's what's going to happen here with?
I don't know.
With this candidate.
He should have left by now. He should have gone full Swalwell.
Well, right, exactly. Swalwell did drop out for his race for governor in California. And I actually want to play you this bite because it's interesting how the Democrats walk and talk in lockstep. And whenever something goes wrong or they're talking about a certain agenda, they always have the same talking points. So listen to this.
That you see and hear from me directly.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false.
Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false.
I'm going to spend time with my family and friends, and I appreciate those who have reached out to me to show support.
We are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people that I love.
Mark.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. Okay, maybe it's time for you to leave the race.
I don't think he's leaving. I mean, maybe he is. Maybe he'll leave today. I just don't know, because at this point of Swalwell's collapse, he threw in the towel. He was done. He gave that little speech. Within a few hours, he was done.
I mean, how many more allegations and things need to stack up against this guy for him to realize?
Well, here's the thing, Ivy, that really bothers me. There was another accusation of sexual assault. Maybe not rape, but sexual assault. But it came from a woman who was a Republican, a conservative.
That's right.
So it was discounted. But this one's a Democrat. She says, I believe in his policies. I just can't let this go forward. So Democrats believe all women, but only if they're Democrats in progressive. I mean, it is so horrendous, the double standard here of It doesn't matter if he's got a Nazi tattoo. It doesn't matter if he laughed at a Purple Heart winner saying, with colorful language, he deserved to die. None of that matters as long as they think they might be able to beat Susan Collins and get a Senate seat. They don't care, you see, because it's not about the people.
I mean, is he? I don't really think that he's actually that formidable of a candidate. And maybe I'm
not
wrong.
now.
But I just don't see it happening, even if, a lot of these allegations come to be not true. I still don't think that he can beat.
You don't see him as an appealing candidate.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know, though. It makes me think of Al Sayed here in Michigan, right?
Right.
Abdul.
I think he loses statewide to Mike Rogers and Al Sayed. Abdul.
Right.
Al Sayed is leading the pack for Democrats to be the
Who
nominee
else
for
is in the
Senate
race
candidate.
here in Michigan? Because didn't the female candidate, I can't recall her name offhand, so you can fill in the blank for me, but she just dropped out over
One
the
of them
weekend.
did. Mallory McMorrow dropped out. But Haley Stevens, which you would consider a more mainstream Democrat, whatever that is these days, the
Right,
congresswoman,
not a leftist.
she's still in. So it's a two-person race, and boy, did the sparks fly here at a debate recently between those two. Is he? They say that they want to talk about America. They want to talk about Michigan. And yet he spent his time talking about Israel. Go figure. It's the talking point for the left. Don't pay Israel. Israel's committing a genocide and all of these different things. Anyhow, I think the Democrats have real problems with candidates they're picking. And I think Tallarico is just as bad in Texas.
Oh, man, what a guy. This guy is.
The gay pastor, right? The gay pastor.
Or, God is non-binary or Jesus is non-binary or whatever the heck he says.
And there are
The
6
most
genders.
ridiculous things. And yeah. No, there's a lot more than 6 according to that guy.
Well, yeah. He said 6 in front of some people. Maybe he's added The point being here is Graham Plattner should leave. He should never have been in the race to begin with. The pretend oyster farmer.
Isn't it like looking out at the field and watching all these candidates? And for those of us who have some common sense and who consider normal these candidates are just simply not normal individuals, and you go, how in the world did we get here? Do you ever look at that and go, how in the world did we get here and actually allow this to be mainstream? Because I think this is mainstream Democrats these days, and I am just always staring at this in awe, going, I don't get it. This doesn't make any darn sense to me at all.
I don't.
How did Bernie Sanders become the spokesman for the Democratic Party?
There's the question of the day. Bernie Sanders is and always has been a kook. In 37 years or 40 years in Congress, he's never had one significant piece of legislation, not one. And somehow,
he's the guy out there endorsing everyone.
Yeah. Anyhow, Ivy's back in a few minutes here with a completely different conversation. Love you.
I love you, Steve.
All right, we'll be back with Ivy a little bit later. And so much more on Daybreak. What are your thoughts? Join the chat or send me an email, stevegruber.com. Made laws in Canada. I've talked about this a little bit. Medical assistance in dying. Made laws in Canada. More than 100,000 people have now been put to death in Canada voluntarily, or at least they say voluntarily, for things as minor as I'm depressed. It's not a joke. Oh, by the way, and for people who like to keep track of demographics, 97% of those people were white folks that were lined up to take their own lives. Maybe they had cancer, maybe they had depression, maybe they had whatever, but it's a diminishing of life to me. It's a diminishing of the value of life, and I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that today. Mark Mostert is here, PhD, senior researcher at Able Americans, the National Center's project to support Americans living with intellectual, developmental, and physical disabilities. Nice to see you today, Mark.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
To me, these numbers out of Canada are shocking, but what happens there tends to migrate down here. We have some laws in places like Oregon and elsewhere that, assisted suicide. I mean, whatever happened to the repudiation of people like Dr. Jack Kevorkian? What happened to that? All of a sudden, this is mainstream normal. I mean, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is crazy when you look at the hard facts, and it hops from country to country. It really started in Europe towards the end of the last century, and it did exactly that. Started in the Netherlands, Belgium, and so on and so forth. Canada is much more recent. They only passed their law in 2016 after a really difficult fight with people who didn't want the law passed. And the law makes very exclusively clear that you can be killed by a medical doctor or a medical professional if you have a quote-unquote certain set of symptoms. The problem is, and this happens in every country that we've ever seen this happen, it starts out with assurances that this is going to be for very few people in very isolated incidents and very rare. The truth is exactly the opposite. Canada, as you said, is closing in on 100,000 deaths since 2016 by euthanasia. Now, there's a difference between assisted suicide and euthanasia. Assisted suicide, someone gives you a poison and you take it yourself. You commit suicide with the help, the assistance of somebody. However, euthanasia is when someone directly kills you. And that's what's going on in Canada. And the euphemism "medical aid in dying" sounds so lovely, and it sounds so comforting. And we're gonna help you just move on to the next world. But in fact, there are horror stories by the hundred out of Canada. And MAID, medical aid in dying, which is medicalized killing, is now basically offered to people for very minor ailments. You don't have to anymore. You don't have to have a terminal illness. It doesn't have to be a physical illness. As you said, it can be something psychological. And if you can convince two doctors, who are all pretty much in on this, by the way, that you want to die, that's readily available to you. Euthanasia is now the 5th leading cause of death in Canada.
Say that again?
Yeah, it's the 5th leading cause of death in Canada, euthanasia.
Killing themselves. Top 5. It's shocking. People want to bring it here. And socialized medicine. People say, well, there's no such thing as a death panel. But there is when it comes to socialized medicine. And Canada has socialized medicine and MAID laws. These two things run parallel, do they not, Mark?
Yes, they do, because I asked the question in a series I did for Able Americans a while ago, saying, where do we draw the line at what life is worthy and what life is unworthy? And clearly, when you have socialized medicine, you have scant resources, you're stretched very thin. And so the idea is developed that if we have people that are seriously medically compromised, perhaps, maybe terminally ill, is it the best use of our resources to try to comfort them and give them expensive care, or is it better spent on people who will recover? And the resounding answer is we're going to spend it on people who can recover. Easy example, a woman, an 84-year-old woman went into the emergency room. She'd fallen on her tailbone. The first words before diagnosis was made, before a scan was given to find out what the problem was, the first words out of the doctor's mouth were, "We can offer you MAID if you'd like." It turned out she cracked her tailbone, went home with some Tylenol, and was fine in 2 weeks. That is happening repeatedly now, where this is seen as the default, quote-unquote, medical treatment in Canada and across the world. Now, in the U.S., we do not yet have euthanasia. we only have assisted suicide. 14 states now allow for assisted suicide, including DC. And it's bubbling up through many other state legislatures. So while assisted suicide is the thin end of the wedge, we will get to where Canada is unless we basically raise up a standard against it.
Yeah. This is remarkable. It's a progression to me, Mark. Abortion on demand up to the moment of birth, MAID laws. It is the dismissal of the value of human life to me. Am I wrong about that?
You're absolutely right. And that's the question to be asked. When is a life unworthy of our care, of our support, and our love? Now, it's very true that resources can't cover everything for anyone, but we're not doing a really good job of taking care of people with seriously compromised conditions. It's also true, this is a death cult. There's no other way to put it. This is a cult that demands death on demand, anywhere, anytime, for any reason, for anyone. That's their ultimate goal. And as you said, abortion, assisted suicide, euthanasia, the denigration of people with serious medical disabilities leads many in the disability community to really fear for what will happen if they walk into a doctor's office and the doctor happens to be someone who thinks they should pop them off versus giving them some better treatment.
Yeah. We need to pay attention to this, Mark, and push back on these things and show people the truth about Canada. The fifth leading cause of death in Canada is, well, it's euthanasia. Mark, thank you for being here. I'll have you back because it's an important story to me. I've been talking about it for a long time now. And now the numbers are coming out. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, folks? Go to stevegruber.com. Drop me an email. Really like to hear from you on this one. 100,000 plus people dead in Canada now because of things as simple as depression. I'll be right back. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but panic in Manhattan. All of a sudden, this building that's under remodeling and reconstruction, they're going to add 16 floors to it. Well, that takes a lot of steel. Apparently, they didn't use enough steel. One of the construction workers said that the I-beams were bending like cigarettes. Panic. They evacuate the building. Looks like it's in, well, could be imminent collapse. It's the former Pfizer world headquarters. It's near Grand Central Terminal. Evacuated Tuesday morning. The fire department got a call at 7:57 about falling bricks. The 38-story building was sagging between the 21st and 26th floors. First responders knowing that two columns buckled between the 21st and 22nd floors. The building in the process of being converted into an apartment complex. More than 1,600 units. I can't wait for Ma'am Donnie to weigh in on this. I can't wait for the socialist solution to a building that was obviously not properly designed. As America celebrates its 250th anniversary, 250 years of the American dream, I've got something for you today. If your American dream is owning a home, you need a bank that shares your values. Old Glory Bank's home loans team does things differently. No runaround, no hidden fees, no bouncing between departments at every step. You get a single loan expert guiding you from start to finish, one you can call directly when you need to, one that gives you honest, straightforward guidance without unnecessary fees and delays. Right now, they are celebrating America's birthday with you with a $250 lender credit on eligible loans when you close your home loan by August the 31st. Get started. OldGloryBank.com/RAV. That's OldGloryBank.com/RAV. Loans and credit subject to approval. Terms apply. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender as well. Have to say those things to keep everybody happy. All right, coming up, Frank Cassidy, President Trump's former housing commissioner, will join me. The market shakeup, why U.S. markets have leverage and others see pandemic boom turned bust. Is the AI bubble real? Or is it just something people use to scare the hell out of you? We'll talk about it coming up. All right, back to it now. Talking about housing in America. It's an important topic that we need to cover here because it's front and center. It's one of the things that could help decide the midterm elections. Frank Cassidy is President Trump's former federal housing commissioner and FHA executive. Frank, good morning.
Steve, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. Look, I'm looking at the markets. The markets remain strong. The housing market, I saw this statistic just this week. There is an assertion out there from this administration that the mass invasion during the Biden years of illegal aliens pushed up housing costs by as much as 30%, pushed up rent costs by more than 20%. It's a pretty remarkable consideration, isn't it?
Absolutely, Steve. When you look at what happened over the pandemic, you had record high immigration. Certain markets, particularly in the Southeast, San Antonio, for example, that were flooded with migration. And this exacerbated supply, and there wasn't enough supply to fill the demand, which created a scenario where in some markets, rents increased by 20, 30, 40%. Now, fortunately, with President Trump's bold action to stop the immigration, those markets have softened and they've gotten back to normal. But you wisely point out that these markets experienced record migration, which resulted in significant rent and home price increases of 20, 30, even in some cases 40%.
You know, I watch the migration internally in the United States now. Texas, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina is the fastest growing state right now. Those housing markets, I'm going to guess, remain strong. But even in places like California, where there's a net negative migration, the housing prices still have not eased. Some prices in Florida and some markets have come down some, but the prices are still significantly higher than they were 5 years ago when the pandemic went into full bloom, right?
Well, let's take California, for example, and New York. Democrat-run states, and in New York City, Democrat-run cities. What you have is a supply-demand imbalance. Democrats have over-regulated housing and created a scenario where there's not enough supply to absorb the demand. President Trump understands you can't regulate, you can't subsidize your way out of a housing crisis. There's one thing that you can do, and it's build. So when you look at California and New York, they haven't let builders build. They make it incredibly complicated. In many cases, it takes years to get these permits. The cost of labor is through the roof, and it's very hard to bring new supply online, which has resulted in housing being unaffordable for many Americans. Steve, take, for example, the average age of the first-time home buyer. It's now up to 40 years old. It used to be in its 20s. As a country, that's a sad thing. We used to be a country of homeowners, younger Americans fulfilling the American dream. And now we've gotten away from that. And what we really need to prioritize is bringing more supply online and getting the government out of the housing market and encouraging more Americans at a younger age to enter first-time homeownership.
Let me focus on New York City for a moment here, Frank, because you obviously heard the mayor there, Mamdani, say that he was freezing rent prices. This came after he said if landlords do not treat their property as we believe they should or fail our guidelines, we will just seize those properties. So he says we will seize your properties if you don't do the proper upkeep and so forth. Then he freezes the rent. How are the landlords, in many of these cases, able to afford those upgrades and upkeep if he says you're not allowed to raise the rent or do anything else? How does that work in a socialist world, Frank?
If you have property operating expenses that are increasing year after year, rising insurance costs, rising operating expenses, and Mamdani wants to freeze rent. So sure, that sounds good for his liberal base and will win him some votes. But what happens when the buildings and the owners cannot keep up with the capital improvements? You're going to have a scenario where owners cannot make a profit at all, and these buildings will fall back to the bank, and they may even fall back to the government. And these renters will be living in government housing, and we know how that typically works. So it's a perfect example of a policy that sounds good and sounds popular in theory, but actually has the unintended consequences.
Yeah. Or they are intended consequences. If you're a socialist and you want to take over the buildings, this is your path to do it. So we need to build. One of the problems we have in America, Frank, as you're quite understanding of, is too much regulation. There has not been a single house rebuilt in California where the Palisades fire occurred and the fires in Malibu. Not one. Because of tremendous government regulation. I don't know if any of those houses will ever be rebuilt or if the state of California will just seize the land. That wouldn't surprise me either. But you go across this country, many red states are making it easier to build, but too much regulation, too many problems of getting permitted to build, well, anything, not just houses, just about anything. What do we need to do about that?
We need to let builders build. We need to incentivize local governments and local municipalities to adapt pro-growth policies that support bringing new housing online. You can't regulate your way out of a housing crisis. You can only build your way out of it. President Trump understands that. A bunch of bureaucrats in D.C. cannot solve the housing crisis. You need builders on the ground bringing more supply online. In many Democrat states, it takes 2, 3, 4 years just to get your permits and approvals to build. That's why in California, you've seen no new homes being built. So we need to encourage local governments to adapt pro-growth policies that contribute to bringing new housing online.
Let me ask you about something else. That's tariffs. Some of the building industry have shared with me that tariffs have pushed up the cost of certain components, not all of it. Wood actually is currently cheaper than it was when COVID got launched. When COVID happened, I mean, a sheet of plywood went through the roof. You know that, right? But what about tariffs? What about the impact of some of those building supplies needed to create these new homes or apartments?
Well, look, the cost of building and supplies goes up and it goes down. Overall, it's a small factor in what it takes to build new housing and bring housing online. The big problem, and it's been this way for 10, 15 years, is government red tape and over-regulation. If you look at the cost to build new housing in this country, 20 to 40% is some form of bureaucratic red tape. And that's what we need to remove. President Trump understands that. If you look at the Road to Housing bill that passed the House and the Senate, a lot of that encourages local governments to adapt pro-business, common sense practices that will bring new housing online. It's a supply and demand imbalance. If you have a shortage of something, what do you do to solve that? You need to create more of it. So we need to encourage pro-growth policies. Look at markets like San Antonio. They don't have a housing problem there. They brought a ton of supply online over
and
the
if we
last
build
couple
our
years,
way out,
rents have actually compressed.
Yeah, if we build our way out, you create jobs as well. Frank Cassidy, good conversation. We'll talk to you again sometime soon because this problem's not going to be solved overnight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Quick break on Daybreak. Well, despite the best efforts of those on the left, patriotism is alive and well and kicking in America. I know because we were up north, northern Michigan, for Independence Day, for the 4th of July fireworks. They were spectacular over Lake Charlevoix. I just want to let you know that up in northern Michigan. But I have more evidence that patriotism is alive because the song that I put together with Ivy and Laura Kokenauer for Steve Gruber and the Freedom Project performed beyond my wildest expectations. Great song. I loved it. But as you look at the chart there, we made the Billboard Top 10, number 6 last week. We didn't just sell iTunes. We did it on Billboard. I want to say thank you to you, but I also want to say thank you to Ivy, who joins me, and Laura Kokenauer, the lead singer, piano player, guitar player, and musical genius. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
All right, Laura, you and I talked a lot last week. Ivy and I are talking, and we're calling you saying, hey, look, it's at number 40. Look, it's at number 30. It was kind of a wild ride, wasn't it?
Oh, my word. It was a wild ride, but it was a thrilling ride. I'm just so excited about this.
You know, what do you think? What do you think about America? I mean, they really connected with this song, One Nation. They connected because I feel like people are hungry for truth. And obviously, you're a pastor. And you see more people coming into church now, but they want to hear it in their music too, don't they?
Absolutely. And you know, Steve, I think people don't just hear this song. I think people feel this song. Yeah. You know, I think people feel patriotism. They feel pride. They feel proud to be an American. And I'm just so thankful for that because it tells me there's hope in this country. America is still here. America is still strong. And I'm just so thankful for that.
And Ivy, from your perspective, your husband was a wreck. I found it very
so for
stressful.
those of you listening and watching, Steve, the day before it was released, he's literally like pacing the house. And I'm like, honey, what is going on? And he's just pacing and pacing and pacing. It's like, I just feel like we're about to deliver a baby. And I just need to smoke a pack of cigarettes to calm my nerves. I'm like, it's going to be okay. It's a great song.
Yeah, for the record, and Anthony will back me up on this, I asked for a pack of smokes. Ivy turned me down.
This is 100% true.
Yeah. What do you think, though, Ivy? I mean, you saw people connect with this. And we were asked last night on a different interview. The first reaction and the kind of reaction that you saw, that you witnessed.
Well, my first reaction, I was sitting in the studio with Laura and her mom, and she put the headphones on me, and I just start listening to the song. And about halfway through, I just start crying because I just felt so proud. This song made me feel so proud to be an American, and it's beautiful, and I love it. And I think a lot of those around us also felt the same. I think when you hear this song, it is just so patriotic, and it just makes you feel an affection for America that I think is so lost these days. And we just, for me, it's just like, yes, this is what America should feel like. We should want to be proud. We should want to be one nation under God, and have this brotherly love, right, that no man could ever break. And I want to get back to that. It's kind of like love your neighbor as yourself kind of thing. And that is so important. But I was actually looking up some statistics, and the likelihood of us making the top 10, it was like 0.5% likely, so very, very, very unlikely that we would ever hit the charts like we did. We were number 1 on Christian for 10, 11 days.
Still in the top 20.
Still in the top 20. And getting up to number 2, all genres, at times beating Taylor Swift, but never quite beating the other.
Ella Langley. We couldn't get to her.
Yeah. But, I want to thank all of you who made this possible, our audience, because without you,
hold on. I have to jump in here.
Okay.
Because Anthony just made me aware of something.
All right.
Somebody in the live chat says it's full of computerized effects and everything else.
It is not.
How much, Laura? I'm going to go to you. How much AI?
There is no AI in that song.
0.
No.
How much computer work? 0.
Okay, computer work in terms of mixing and mastering, but not.
The drums are real, the piano's real, the guitar is real, the vocals are real, the bass is real.
Go watch the music video, people.
So, you know what, Anthony?
Everything's real.
Everything's real.
Oh, my goodness.
The point is, it's legit.
I knew you'd have something to say.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony, for pointing that out.
The
You know what,
controversy,
Anthony?
Steve.
While we have a second here, go ahead and roll the promo for us if you don't mind. Just roll it. And this is 100% real. It is authentic.
Yes.
From prayer to purpose to a promise that still stands. From Rav's own Steve Gruber comes One Nation by Steve Gruber and the Freedom Project. A powerful new American anthem for the 4th of July. Faith, freedom, and unity in every line. A new release through Real America's Music. One Nation. Download it now. Scan the QR code or search One Nation by Steve Gruber and the Freedom Project on iTunes.
One nation under God, may we always be the home of the brave and the land of the free. For every battle, blood was lost. God bless America, sea to shining sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen to those computerized effects on that sparkly Gretsch guitar. Give me a break. Ladies, I'm so proud of what we did here. I really am. We only have about 30 seconds here. Last thought to you, Laura.
You know, I'm just thankful to the Lord. I believe the Lord's hand is on this song. I believe the Lord's hand is on this nation. And he still has a purpose and a plan for America. And Steve and Ivy, I'm just so thankful for you, for getting in there and working together. And I think we made a great song, and I'm just so thankful.
Laura, thank you very much. Ivy, it was a heck of a project.
Yeah.
Ivy and I set out our goals every year in January. This wasn't even in my wildest dreams. Oh, you'll be a Billboard top 10 hit.
Never would have thought.
Never would have thought.
Yeah.
Laura,
Never,
thank you.
never.
Greatly appreciate it. Ivy, love
Thank
you.
you so much.
So
Love
much.
you.
All right. Appreciate it. There you have it. Computerized. Yeah. That's okay. I had to set the record straight there. Thank you, Anthony, for pointing out that absurdity. Yes, we'll have something to say about that. Anyhow, it's on all streaming platforms. One Nation by Steve Gruber and the Freedom Project. It's on all platforms. Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, YouTube, of course. Steve Gruber, go find it on YouTube. Appreciate your support. Back with sports after this. All right, let's check in on sports now with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. We're down to the final 8 at the World Cup as the last 2 round of 16 matches were played yesterday. Argentina rallied to beat Egypt 3-2, and Switzerland beat Colombia in penalty kicks 4-3 after playing to a goalless draw through extra time. In the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers gave All-Star Donovan Mitchell a 4-year contract extension worth $273 million yesterday. Mitchell led the Cavs to the Eastern Conference Finals this past season. Also, former All-Star Chris Middleton is headed to the Washington Wizards on a 3-year deal worth over $17 million. This is part of a massive 6-team trade involving 11 players and multiple draft picks. At Wimbledon, Novak Djokovic survived his quarterfinal over Felix Auger-Aliassime, winning in 5 sets in a 5-hour, 15-minute epic that went to a 5th-set tiebreaker. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Greatly appreciated. Where is Mitch McConnell? Again, I asked the question, hey, Mitch, where are you? Is it weekend at Bernie's with Mitch McConnell? Seems to be. No serious updates on his health. It's been 3+ weeks. We're going on a month here. Apparently, he had a heart attack on the 14th of June. According to the tapes released on July 1, when he was found, he was unconscious and unresponsive. CPR was applied to an 84-year-old frail man. And yet people say they're talking to him. I'm not sure of that. There are rumors that he is sick, very sick. Some rumors claim that he's brain dead. Of course, some people claim that the Israelis killed Charlie Kirk, too. So, a lot of different things flying around out there that are a little bit beyond the smell test. All right? So, hey, like accusing us of faking the song or some stupid thing. Anyhow, as my father used to say, you ought to get down to Sears and get your ears checked. Thanks, Dad. Greatly appreciate. Needed that one this morning. We'll take a break. We got another big hour straight ahead here. Odd day break. We'll see you around the corner.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, welcome back to it. Glad to have you on board as we continue the conversation now. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, the price of gas refusing to slide. In fact, it went up by a penny yesterday on the national average. Why? Why? Because because oil is at $72 now. Is that it? Number two, war. Donald Trump says this ceasefire is pointless. He's probably right. And number three, a bit of a round robin here today. I got several things I want to go to here today. And not sure where to start. I think I'm going to start with bite number 4. There's a reason that I've got this round robin here today. I find all these interesting bites that don't fit with anything else. Right? Usually, like when I'm looking at an hour, I'll say, okay, let's put the Iran war together, the economy together, Graham Plattner together. So I'm building the show. And so this hour, it's time to clean up aisle number 3. It's time to clean up aisle number 3. So I want to start with bite number 4. This is Ron Paul, former congressman, the father of Rand Paul, the longtime senator from the state of Kentucky, talking about the coup in America, basically the deep state, the globalist corporations, the globalist individuals. And I think it's very interesting. Listen to this all the way to the end. Here it is.
You know, there's been a coup. We don't have any resemblance to a government that believes in a republic. We don't have honest money. We don't have integrity. We don't even have people in Washington that even pretends, you know, that you're supposed to tell the truth. But I do believe there has been a coup and it's been taken over. And if I want to just put the date in my mind. And anybody could pick probably any date in the last 100 years. But I have picked November 22nd, 1963.
What happened on that day?
That was the day Kennedy was murdered by our government.
Wow.
You know,
Well, there you have it. Ron Paul saying that JFK was murdered by the government. You know, some conspiracies hold water. Tell me what you think of that. Curious what you think of that. All right, that's you know, an interesting take. The next lesson here takes us much farther back, all the way to the 18th century. And I saw this. This is an old clip. I'm not sure who this guy is, but I found it fascinating. So you might want to take notes this morning about all the things we're doing here. So November 22nd, 1960, that's when the coup really began. And you look at everything that happened in 1965, the Immigration Naturalization Act, the Great Society, that has spent $30 trillion to barely move the needle on poverty in this country. The Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965 by Lyndon Johnson changed the way we bring people into this country. We used to bring them in from Europe primarily and other Western nations, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Canada, whatever. It shifted it to bringing in people from all sorts of countries that have no relationship with our culture, our heritage. It all began back in 1965. Circle that year on your calendar. So here's a quick history of the United States and Islam. You might know some of this. I did, but I thought it was a fascinating little discussion. Listen.
In 1788, when the United States was barely a country, right, it was having its sailors taken as slaves by the Barbary states, the states of the Ottoman Empire in North Africa.
Tripoli.
Tripoli.
Shores of
exactly.
Tripoli.
Shores of Tripoli. Ships stopped. Its crews carried off into slavery. We estimate 1.5 million European and American slaves taken between 1750 and 1815. Jefferson and Adams went to their ambassador in London and said, why do you do this to us? The United States has never had a quarrel with the Muslim world of any kind. We weren't in the Crusades. We weren't in the war in Spain. Why do you do this to our people and our ships? Why do you plunder and enslave our people. And the ambassador said very plainly, Mr. Abdul Rahman said, because the Quran gives us permission to do so, because you are infidels. And that's our answer. And Jefferson said, well, in that case, I will send a navy which will crush your state, which he did. Islamic fundamentalism is not created by American democracy. It's a lie to say so. It's a masochistic lie. And it excuses those who are the real criminals, and it blames us for the attacks made upon.
And that goes back, I think that clip is about 30 years old. It's Bill Maher on his old program, Politically Incorrect, which I think aired on ABC, blaming the United States for Islam is a grotesque lie. I think that's an interesting comment, and that's Bill Maher there with you, so interesting. How about one more? How about one more? Let's go to the NATO summit, all right? And NATO is coming a part of that. You know what? Let's go to number 3. The Democrats who slammed, here's just another interesting little thing that I found that didn't have any home in the program exactly, but I love doing this and getting your feedback. The Democrats who slammed President Trump seem to be coming apart at the seams. Here's an example.
A lot has been said about me today through anonymous allegations. I thought it was important that you see and hear from me directly.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They are absolutely false.
Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false.
They also come on the eve of an election where I have been the frontrunner candidate for governor in California.
Regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict.
I do not suggest to you in any way that I'm perfect or that I'm a saint.
I have been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me.
I think you know who I am. For over 20 years, I have served the public.
You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship.
I also apologize to you if in any way you have doubted your support for me.
Throughout it all, you never turned your back on me.
This weekend, I'm going to spend time with my family and friends.
We are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward.
Yeah, well, what is that best path forward? You had all that support. Remember, Bite 8, last thing before I move on out of here. Remember this? Listen, Bite 8.
I'm endorsing Graham Plattner for Senate in Maine. And here's the reason why. Graham Plattner is the real deal.
That's my kind of man.
That's her kind of man, yeah. Is your home protected from thieves? People can get online, change a few documents, and then send your home ownership dream up in smoke because they stole it out from under you. It happens every day. We do the stories here. And getting it back takes years and a lot of money. That's why I trust the experts at Home Title Lock. 24/7 title monitoring, urgent alerts, a 100% fraud restoration success rate. They'll spend up to $1 million to protect you. And to celebrate America's 250th birthday, they're giving you, my audience, 25% off up to 2 years of title fraud protection. That's over $100 in savings right now, plus a free title history report to ensure that you're already not a victim. All right? Use the promo code Gruber25 at HometitleLock.com today and get protected today. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber25. I'll be right back. All right, let's get back to it with one of my favorite segments we have every week here, talking about the greatest state in the union, at least physically. Politically, well, maybe not. But the greatest state in the union, where Ron Rademacher has had pine cones and switchgrass and everything else caught in his teeth, his hair, his pants, everything else, as he wanders around the back roads looking for the coolest stuff all over Michigan. Ron Rademacher with me. Ron, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I am lovely. I'm fine for a man in my condition.
Yes, well, that theme music, I think that's from Barney Miller that you played on that bump there. It always, now every time I look in the mirror, I think of fish.
Thank you for that vote of confidence. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for reminding me of how I look these days. So.
Appreciate it.
So we have some shout outs for you. But a quick update. You talked to me last weekend about what's going on up on the Tunnel of Trees. I don't know if you went or not, but I got a flash a couple of days ago from one of the Facebook posters up there. They've had more floods.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Going that way.
So we did not.
Double check on road conditions.
Yeah, we did not investigate. We decided to spend our time on Lake Charlevoix, which was spectacular.
Oh, bless your little heart. That's just suffering.
Went to the Landing, which is a beautiful bar and restaurant. Right there, you pull your boat in. Everybody is lovely. It was a great day. We also met one of the folks that lives on the lake. Used to be the general manager for the Golden State Warriors. Lovely couple they were. And spent a long time talking to them as well at lunch one day. It was a fabulous weekend.
Well, we had some people come by the booth at Houghton Lake. I got a couple of shout outs for you here.
All
Ray from Farmington Hills came by. He listens every day.
Hello, Ray. Thanks for listening.
Including, he even said he even listens on Wednesday mornings, even though that one guy comes on.
That guy.
That guy. And Charlene from South Lyon came by. Those are the two big shout outs. I do have a shout out that I want to give. You're a busy man, but I'm sure you saw the fireworks display on the 4th of July in Tokyo. Did you happen to see
it? It was remarkable.
Just absolutely amazing. That tribute from our friends over there in Japan. So that's a great shout out to those guys. Did a great job.
They did. Yeah. And we set the world's record in the nation's capital. 861,000 individual fireworks lit off on a single evening.
Oh, terrific. Terrific. Yeah. And someplace, I'm not sure where it was, whether I can't remember now where it was, but they also sent off the biggest shell ever launched for fireworks. I'm not sure exactly where that was.
I thought that was Blue Horizon, but maybe I'm wrong.
It may have been. It was fun. It was a great weekend. We had decent weather. It was
Sorry,
Michigan
Ron.
weather. Everybody was.
Blue Horizon is the Bezos rocket that blew up a couple weeks ago. I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. So that was it. That was it. Yeah, I missed that one. Thank you for bringing me up to speed.
Yeah. All right.
So we got a lot going on around the state.
All right.
Lots going on. I mean, even this is Michigan in the summer. There's way more than we can ever talk about. And just because we don't have a major weekend doesn't mean stuff is not going on. Up in Chassell, in the Upper Peninsula, the Copper Country Strawberry Festival will be going on. And that's in downtown Chassell. So in case you're having trouble finding it, it's downtown Centennial Park. That's a good time. On the other side of the Upper Peninsula, Cedarville, this is a little bit different. This is Frog Fest. It's July 11th. But it's not, you're not going to be out there gigging for frogs. It's actually an educational event where they have all kinds of wildlife speakers come in, and it's particularly aimed at children. So if you're in that Belishino area, try and drop by that. It'll be great for the kids. They can learn a lot about what's going on outdoors.
Frog Fest.
Frog Fest. Not
do they
like
eat them?
We used to do it.
Do you eat them, or is it just for fun?
Yeah, you don't get to gig them and eat them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be doing it somewhere around NEMA, but they don't have anything going on this weekend. I'll tell you who does have. St. Helen has their Bluegill Festival. I don't know if you've ever been to it. It goes on for 5 days. officially it goes on for 4, actually it goes on for about 10.
Right.
It's been going on for generations. That is one of the great panfish lakes in all of northern Michigan. Average is only about 3 or 4 feet deep. There are pike in there too, Steve.
They eat
Know
well.
where to go. If you know where to go.
Yeah.
Bear Lake, in their Bear Lake days, I bring that up because that's another good fishing spot. But even if you just go by to have the food and see what's going on around town, this is not very far from the Gravity Mystery. I don't know, have you ever taken that trip that I write about, the Gravity Mystery?
I
over by
have
Bear
not.
Lake? It's one of the, I get more emails from people about the Gravity Mystery than any place. It's out on Joyfield Road. There's a spot unmarked. You have to know where to go. Where you park, your car will be uphill, and you just take your foot off the brake, and your car will roll up the hill. People will be out there videoing balls bouncing up the hill. It's great fun.
Why is it?
I beg your pardon?
Why?
Well,
why does the ball bounce up the hill?
Some people, because it's a gravity mystery. That's why it's called the Gravity Mystery, Steve, because it's a mystery. I don't know if it's an optical illusion. We've done it a half a dozen times that I've taken people out there. It's so remarkable. If you go to the Chamber of Commerce in Frankfurt, they'll give you a map. And I have a map on MichiganBackroads.com that you can download and print out. Very easy to get to. There's nothing to buy or do. There's nothing out there. But if you go to the right spot, your car will roll up the hill. And it will roll a lot faster than you think it's going to. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very cool effect. Harrison, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, hold on. We're going to take you into extra innings for the first time in a while because I do not want to miss the World Tour with Bob the Turtle and some other important items on the list here in my hand. So if you'd be so kind, Ron, is to stick around for extra innings.
It's what I live for, Steve. It's
something the U.S. men's team was unable to do against Belgium because they got blown out. But hold on. We'll be right back with Ron Rademacher. I'll get this right. Easy for me to say. Ron Rademacher on Daybreak, still to come. All right, let's bring the man, the myth, the legend right back in, Ron Rademacher, because he has a lot more to talk about. Ron, here you go.
We do, yeah. So we've covered a couple of these. We talked a week or so ago. I mentioned Charlton Park as a Father's Day trip. They're having their gas and steam engine show this weekend. So if you're into the old motors, that's a great one. Harbor Springs, we have to mention this. Bliss Fest, one of the big folk music festivals that happens. People come from all over the country to go to Bliss Fest, and it's not as big as Electric Forest, but it is as popular. So if you're up that way, and Harrisville is having their wine and food festival, and they have added brews to it. So 32 years this has been going on. It's gotten so big they moved it from a pocket park down to the harbor so the boats can come in. That's another great time. And we will be, as mentioned, the World Tour. We will be at the Pentwater Art Fair with Bob the Turtle. Pentwater, as you know, is rumored to be a hotbed of MAGA supporters. So, no, not really.
I have no idea. I know that I caught my biggest steelhead in the Pentwater River, and my hands were so cold they were like claws when the event was over. Yeah, I remember
And
that.
it remains cold in that river. And of course, just off the coast there, some of the great salmon fishing and steelhead fishing, between Grand Haven and Ludington, Pentwater is well known. All you do is sail out there, keep them in the water, you're going to catch fish.
All right. And there you have it. If you want your event, your special event, hosted by Helga, Bob the Turtle, and of course, Ron Rademacher,
I try to get in there.
You can go to MichiganBackroads.com and check in. You can also find Ron's collection of fine books, of which there are many. And they have road trips all over Michigan. If you're not from Michigan, what are you doing? Get here. MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. Last word to you, Ron. 20 seconds.
All I can say, Steve, is thank you, and again, congratulations on your musical success. We are all looking forward to your 2028 tour.
Yep. Big stuff. There you go. Bob the Turtle is the opening act, actually, which is weird.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
There you go.
They're going to start.
Good luck out there, Ron. We'll check in with you next week. My friend Ron Rademacher. See
Try
you.
to keep out of trouble.
Yeah.
Try to keep out of trouble.
All right, welcome back as we continue the conversation on a beautiful Wednesday morning. You know, the weather this summer for me, I missed all the storms down south because I was up north, but man, it's been a nice summer as far as I'm concerned. Not too hot yet, A lot to talk about. Major transportation investments in the state budget is what I'm going to put on the table now. State Representative Donnie Steele from Michigan's 54th House District is with me. Donnie, nice to see you this morning.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
So, does your transportation budget include high-speed rail, like one of the candidates for governor is suggesting? Just throwing that out there.
They do want to add new railroads from Detroit to Traverse City.
Well,
but it's not
for freight. For freight, right? Yeah.
No.
Anyhow, high-speed rail might be the dumbest proposal I've heard from any political candidate in a bit. But anyhow, what's really in the bill?
Well, the bill is big. It's 1,000 pages, and we spent $75 billion, and we are close to our $8 billion mark in the transportation budget because we were able to increase it a couple billion the last couple years to invest in our neighborhood roads and our road system. And luckily this cycle, I was able to also be able to allocate some funding to railroads, airports, and Marines. So I was really happy with this new investment in our transportation.
All right, ports, airports, freight network, which is what you're talking about when you talk about railroads. That's what keeps the state thriving. But right now, look, we're having net negative migration. It's all the policies. It's tax policy, it's infrastructure, it's the ability to bring a business here. I mean, there's some complicated problems that have not been solved over the last 8 years. Would you agree?
1,000%. I've been there 4 years, and what I see is not good for the state of Michigan, and we could do better with. We have so much to offer, and if we make it more accommodating to people, I think that we would have a better chance of attracting people and retaining people as well. But we keep on passing bad policies, and I'm just looking anxious. I'm looking forward to next year and see what the new group of people in Lansing might do to the state of Michigan to make it a better place.
Where would you start if you had a list of things to do for major transportation investments to, improve and upgrade our transportation system? There are some road repairs going on, but in any given year, we repair about 1% of the roads in Michigan. I mean, it has to happen faster. It has to be more aggressive. In my estimation, as somebody who drives down roads that are just beat to tar, if you will, no pun intended. But if you had the top three things you'd like to see happen, Donnie, what would they be?
Well, maybe it might not be road related, but first top three things I think is that, like, I work in Lansing, and since COVID, people have not come back to Lansing to work. So we have hundreds of empty buildings, 50,000 workers working 50% from home, if not more. And I think that we need a better leadership in Lansing to move everything forward. So with the roads, though, I think the influx of
Hold
money
on, let me jump in on what you just said here. If they can do the job from home, I don't have an issue with that. But if that's the case, then the state of Michigan should liquidate those buildings. Why pay rent? Why pay utilities? Why keep the buildings? And if they can't do it effectively from home, get them in the office. Very simple thing. But don't put them in the office to be performative. I mean, if a new governor comes in and says you have to be in the office, don't do it for performative sake. Do it because it's needed. And I'm sure some of these offices do need people in there. But if we don't need the buildings, sell them. Stop paying for them. Stop draining the resources on them. Am I right or wrong?
1,000%. So, yeah, and you know what? If the services were being provided at a quicker, faster pace, then I would say you're right. Working from home is working. But I had a call yesterday from one of my residents that said he still hasn't got his tax return yet. I had calls from other residents that said that they were given erroneous letters from the Treasury Department saying that they hadn't paid their fourth quarter payment. And the Treasury sent out 27,000 letters saying that they were in error and the machine made a mistake, and they sent them out, and then they retracted them and said that those letters were wrong. And in the meantime, you had a bunch of people pay based on the letter, and then now we have a double whammy problem. So I don't know if the permits are taking 4 months instead of 4 weeks. Just things like that. So it makes me think that working from home is not working. I mean, even, Stellantis, Ford, GM, even California went back to work. Federal government went back.
Even California. Good point you make. Here's something else, completely off topic, but a frustration I've been hearing from people that I know. Still have not gotten their tax returns. It's July. Where are the tax returns? Does anybody know? I mean, are they in some deep, dark hole or somebody's slush fund? Are they buying coffee machines for $5,000? What are we doing here? Where are the? This is hurting working people in Michigan. So what's up with it?
Well, you're speaking into my frustration. So I work for the people, and my goal is to give the best service to the people based on what the state does. And I just see, I was in service industries my whole life. The service that we provide at the state level is subpar, and I think we can do better. And the tax returns is a perfect example. We, as state representatives, have like a inside phone number that we can call and say, hey, we're having trouble getting these tax returns to this group of people. They don't even pick up our phone anymore. So they are so inundated with calls. And then, there was an oversight committee meeting with the Treasury Department, and they said, yeah, our phone system's kind of old and it probably needs to be updated. Even though they collect $38 billion, you would think that they would have an up-to-date phone system. Just things that I hear that are just like uncanny. So you have the issue is, as a state legislator, you're not in control of the departments. The executive branch is in control of the departments, and the service provided is coming from the executive branch.
Right.
And we don't have control of it other than we try to help our people get through the system.
One last thing, and I've only got about 45 seconds, but the other complaint that I'm hearing from people is these new ITC lines, basically using eminent domain to plow these electrical lines through neighborhoods. I know we need grid upgrades, but do the people have any voice in what gets put in their neighborhood and tears down their property values? Got 30 seconds.
Oh, that was a great, we just introduced a bill in the House that allows these lines to go down the highways, not through people's backyards. And I think that is a great, you already have roads and you have road right-of-ways and you have safety paths and utility lines. Why wouldn't you put these wires in land that's already
Well, that would make sense. Can you email me that? I'd like to see that. I want to talk about that more in the future, Donnie. I really appreciate you being here, but I'd like to see that proposal. If you could email it to my team here, I'd really appreciate it.
I'll do that. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. Happy
Always
summer.
good conversation. She's got so much on her plate, and on top of all of it, I appreciate it. I'll be back for her trifecta return today after this. All right, back to it now, and just heading for the finish line on a great day, beautiful Wednesday. Wherever we go, the sun shines. Ask Ivy. I mean, everybody, we have not seen rain in person in a bit.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful few weeks, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, we dodge the storms. We go north, storms come here. We come down here, the storms go there. Hey, look, my flowers are getting watered. I'm just not there to see it, which is perfect.
Yeah, well, it is summer, and it's wonderful to be in Michigan.
It is.
So if you've never visited here, I know you had Ron Rodemaker on earlier, but it is a wonderful place to be in the summertime.
It sure is.
I'm not sure I would want to be any other place. So it's talking about storms rolling through. The president is attending NATO in Turkey, and he's had a lot to say there. One of the things that I found really interesting, though, of course, the ceasefire seems to have lifted.
It's over.
Yeah, the Iranians, they're just not good. They're not honest actors. I think we know that. The president knows that. But I want you to hear this bite to with Iran there, Anthony.
Won't resume after we get through the funeral proceedings. Does this mean that talks with Iran will not resume?
I don't care. They can talk, but I think they're wasting their time. They're a bunch of lying guys. I do my whole life. That's all I do is deals. My whole life that's how I became president. I guess that's a deal too, right? But I made a lot of money. I had a lot of great success. Tremendous success. Everything I did, I was successful. And I deal with these guys, and I say, this is from a different school. They're liars. They're cheats. They're sick people. They've hurt their people. They killed 54,000 people as of now that were protesting. When people say, how come they haven't taken over? They can't take over because they're dead. They killed them. Nobody's going to take over. They have no guns, and the other side has machine guns. And they're killing them. The press doesn't report it. But they're bad people. They're bad people. And frankly, I don't want to waste my time with them. Now, I'll let our wonderful negotiators keep talking if they want, but I don't see it. I don't like these people. You know that? I like him. I like the leaders. I think all of these leaders.
Great. And they love.
I think they didn't treat the United States fairly.
Yeah, I think his take there is spot on. I mean, the realization is, I don't think that the leaders of Iran really want peace.
Yeah,
they want complete upheaval in the Middle East, and they won't come to the table for their own economic advantage. They'll just, I just don't know where we go from here. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me give you an update here. I mean, President Trump is in Ankara, Turkey, at the presidential palace. That's where the NATO summit's being held yesterday and today.
Yeah.
There are concerns with his safety now. Will Iran try to hit Turkey? They've got missiles that can reach Turkey. They did it already. And so that could happen. But more than 80 Iranian targets were struck, including vessels with the Iranian military on board, believed to be causing the chaos in the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah. Well, they hit some ships yesterday that were
3
not military ships that were heading north into
Commercial
the Strait
vessels.
of Oman, right?
Right.
And they were commercial vessels. And I think one was, there was a couple, I don't recall the countries that they were from. But, it's like, come on, guys. Come to the table, but they won't. And
Well, we've talked about this. We're hopeful, we're optimistic for a deal, but when there are potentially 3 different factions you're dealing with inside the nation right now, you don't know who you're dealing with or who speaks for whom, and the IRGC doesn't seem to listen to anyone except their military commanders. And remember, there are 33 provinces in Iran. Back in about 2003, they decentralized. So if one IRGC headquarters got hit, they were still in business. They could still function. So you could destabilize one province or 2 or 10, and the IRGC could still, from other provinces launch drones or whatever into the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
Or they could launch a missile at Turkey. They could do a lot of things. But I think if they launched a missile at Turkey today, that would be an act of war that would be hard to come back from.
We saw, pretty incredible military power when they hit Iran to begin with. I can imagine the kind of military might we would show if they were to pull something like that. But I want to continue on here. The president made some interesting comments about Spain, because Spain pulled out of
They wouldn't let us use anything.
Wouldn't you let us use anything? But here's what he had to say on that, and I want your take on it.
But Spain doesn't agree to anything. and you shouldn't carry them. I mean, you sort of automatically carry because you're protecting an area, so they're there. So they probably figure they have to protect us, right? But we don't have to. We don't have to trade with them. I don't want to do any more trade with them. All right? Take it immediately. Don't even talk to them. They're hopeless. Bad people, because you know they have everybody else going and paying and working in Spain. In particular, Spain. There are a couple of others, but in particular, Spain. They're open about it. They're hostile about it. And let's see how hostile they remain when they call up and they, please, we want to trade with you, sir. We want to trade with you, sir. They make so much money with us, and we're going to see that they make a lot less. I want no business with them. So,
and frankly, it's understandable, and here's why. All the American destroyers that have the missiles and the missile systems to defend Europe are at the base, the naval base in Spain. So they want us to park our ships there to protect Spain or England or France, but when we say, hey, let us fly over and take care of this thing we want to take care of, no, you're not allowed. Yeah. And remember, it's a socialist government in Spain that was elected recently.
Yep.
They hate Trump, but he's right. Spain either play ball or get out, and I think NATO is not in good shape today. And honestly, I ask the question again. If we were attacked, which one of those countries would actually stand up and defend the United States? Honestly, and who could defend the United States?
I don't know if any of them can, to be honest.
Right.
And I think there's something like, if memory serves on the numbers, it's $38 billion that Spain does trade with the United States.
Could be right.
So that's a pretty big number that they have on the line. If they're not, clearly something happened that we're not aware of, because he's pretty upset with Spain right now.
We'll keep a close eye on it, because the ceasefire is apparently over 80 strikes by the U.S. military in the last 15 hours, give or take. Ivy, love you.
I love you too, Steve.
We'll have some final thoughts after this. I have a serious question for you. Is anybody honest anymore? Besides me and the people that I know in my circle? The reason I ask, I see these stories every day. Here's one from New York City. A scathing whistleblower letter alleges corruption inside New York City's powerful hotel workers union, including claims that union leaders accepted gifts from hotel executives, manipulated lease arrangements, and improperly influenced union business in a culture of quid pro quo dealings, claims that were corroborated by union sources. The letter asserts that top officials within New York Hotel Trades Council and Unite Here Local 6, including its president, participated in actions that violated internal policies, fiduciary obligations, and possibly federal law. The union denies all allegations of impropriety, claims they did an internal investigation. Yeah, they did an internal investigation. Well, that makes me feel better. The president had personal knowledge of and either directly participated or directed others to misappropriate millions of dollars of retail income, according to the letter. He accepted and allowed his elected officers to accept gifts of hotel rooms, liquor, gourmet food, electronic items, and more. A quick change in the culture there after this gentleman, Rich Morocco, became the president. For 25 years, there was a standard that was really adhered to. Very disciplined about it as far as receiving gifts. That all changed in the past 5 years when the new president came in. It all changed. Corrupt, and which brings me back to the question I just asked. Who's honest anymore? There's corruption. They steal from welfare. They steal from home health care. They steal from autistic children. They steal from the SNAP program. The unions enrich themselves. Politicians, unions, globalists, all lining their pockets while you and I go to work every day. It's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is Daybreak. And remember, only you can save America.